Well, hello. Welcome to another great episode of Kingdom Social Justice Solutions. I am your host, Shalonda Ajibola, and I'm excited about who I have on the episode today. I know it's been a while since I did any interviews and I don't know if it's been since last year. It's been a minute. We have got a lot going on this year, 2025. Um, but believe me, there's a lot of other podcasters and other people out there that's posting enough to keep us all aware of what's going on. So, once again, like the purpose of this podcast is to not to just talk about problems, but to talk about solutions. And initially, even with the goal of the podcast, is to highlight and to spotlight people, individuals, organizations that are providing solutions to social justice issues, things that are going on in our community. And so that's the purpose of the podcast is to put on display solutions to our problems. So we don't just talk about them, but we show what people are doing, and hopefully that sparks and inspires other people to get involved and to maybe take some lessons, maybe get some ideas on what they can do in their community and where they are, wherever in the world. So I'm happy to have on the podcast with me Sergeant Gray. Uh, Let me first back up and explain. It wasn't until just last year that I found out I'm related to a World War II hero. Like it's I don't know, and the way we even found out is it's really crazy. We'll probably get more into it later, but it was just planning for my grandma's 103rd birthday party. The family just getting together, trying to decide what we're gonna do, and one of the cousins was doing I don't know some internet searching and stumbled upon PFC Willy F. James Jr. And we're like, what is this? So throughout the course of this journey, and that's what Mr. Sergeant Gray is here to kind of explain the journey and how we end up getting connected and where we are going from here. So, welcome to the podcast, Sergeant Gray. How are you?
And I'm doing fantastic. And thanks for having me. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing with the social justice and appreciate that.
Yes, yes, it's a pleasure. Like I said, I it's been a while since I've had a podcast, but of course, I got a full time business and I'm married. So, but I would love to do more. But I was just thinking so much about the story and the journey, and even like I said, we'll get further into it. But there was and looking at opportunity to doing a documentary, and that's actually something that's on one of my bucket lists. But I was just thinking, I'm like, well, why wait until to do a documentary? Let's go ahead and try to, let me interview you. Let's talk about the story. At least put the pieces together. So when it comes time, maybe for the documentary, we'll have some already have some footage to put together. So Sergeant Gray, if you can tell us about yourself, where are you from? How did you even get introduced to the military? Are you from a military background? Are is your family in the military? How did just tell us your story? What was it like growing up and how you got started?
Well, thank you. And I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. From both parents was in the household and seven, I have seven siblings. And so we was raised, so it's nine of us in a two-bedroom house, one bath. And so
Wow.
that was my kind of growing up in the 60s. Uh, so I was born in the late 50s. And so I was in elementary school when Martin Luther King and the civil rights was all occurring. And then in the 70s, I graduated from Southeast High School. And all 4 years of high school, I worked at McDonald's. It was a McDonald's on 49th and Swope Parkway. And I
Okay.
worked there for the whole 4 years I was in high school. I was kind of not so great student. I was just in and out. And The military never crossed my mind. You know, the high school did have junior ROTC, but it never crossed my mind. And so
Okay.
when I graduated from high school, I was more like my father worked at the post office, and so we had a good medium size uh, income, and so
Okay.
I did not want to end up like that. And so a year after I graduated, I was still working at McDonald's. And so one of my best friends, he got kicked out of his house and said he was going into the military. And I said,
Okay.
okay, I'll go with you. So we both went into the buddy system. That was my
Oh,
first taste of the military. And I never thought it never occurred to me about any danger or anything, what was going on in the country. So we went in together, and matter of fact, we stayed 20 years. Well, I stayed
okay.
26. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
we both ended up our career. But that kind of taught me life lessons to how to be a man and
Yeah.
look at my education and see what other individuals was doing in their lives. And so a lot
Okay.
of it was taking college courses and bettering themselves, either starting businesses or doing stuff. The discipline of the military had a stable life and everything else. And so
Okay.
I enjoyed that. And matter of fact, I wanted to get out. I got married a year after I went into the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And so I knew my wife from that McDonald's from high school. And so
Um,
I knew her since high school. And so fast forward, we went through all the trials, tribulations of being in the
mhm.
military, being deployed, being in combat. But what I really learned about being in the military is leadership,
Mhm.
taking care of individuals that's next to you and individuals
Mhm.
that you meet. And so it was very rewarding for me not to take the credit, but to let whoever's standing next to me get the
Mhm.
credit and move
Okay.
up, and so
Okay.
that's why I rose through the ranks and always had a passion about letting other individuals get the credit to teach them
Mhm.
to
Okay.
pass down that leadership. And so that's basically how I got it started in the military. And 26 years uh, was a great career. Traveled around the world, family. We
Mhm.
lived 9 years in Japan, and so the culture
Wow.
of Japan and everything else was really influenced on my kids. They enjoyed it, and so got to meet different cultures.
Okay. So, what was it like? Because this would have been the 70s, right?
Yes, when I
Sure.
graduated from high school.
Okay. So, in the military, I guess I'm just trying to get a time frame of what it would have been like as African American in the military at that time.
Yes, that was a very because in the middle of the 70s, that's when Vietnam was over in
Okay.
1975. And so everyone that was in the military was from the Vietnam era. And most of
Oh,
the Vietnam era individuals was starting to pick up to be African American people of color going into the
hmm
military. And
hmm
so everyone at that time in the 70s was trying to fight to get up to become generals, become a senior enlisted, because it was all pretty much dominated by uh, uh, white individuals that had all the rank at that time. And so
Okay.
in the 70s, when I went in, and the 80s, we started making progress because the first African American sergeant major, the top enlisted sergeant major of the Marine Corps, was selected. He was a friend of mine's. Matter of fact, his uniforms and everything is in the African American Museum in Washington,
Okay.
D.C. And
Wow.
so I worked with him. And so that was kind of the progress of becoming African Americans in all armed forces at that time. That's when
Hmm.
it started to kind of shift, and we started to making some serious progress. Uh,
Hmm.
but that was very few officers I saw in the African Americans, whether Hispanic, very few.
Okay. And so, and like I said, all I have is I know my dad went to, he enlisted in the army before I was even born. So that would have been part of the 70s as well, late 70s. He went to boot camp, but then he was honorably discharged because of a medical condition. So who knows what would happen? But so other than that, so I don't know the rankings. And so how long did it take you, or do you feel like uh it was an easy ride up, or did you have to, what was your, I guess, journey in getting to sergeant?
Well, to get to the rank, I had to achieve a lot. Uh, but I try to tell a lot of young students and young people that you go up for a promotion board to get promoted, and
Okay.
you look across, and all of them are white, and then you're competing with probably about another five other white individuals, and it's only a slot for three or two.
Okay.
Now, so it was hard to break that you have the same criteria as the other
Hmm.
five,
Hmm.
but with them sitting over there having the choice of the board, who
Right.
they going to have be promoted. So that was a major hurdle for myself, but I ended up getting up to the second highest rank in the Marine Corps, and I was in charge of almost 40,000 Marines in
Oh, wow.
Iraq during the
Oh, wow.
war when we invaded Iraq. So I was responsible for a lot of Marines at that
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
so I tried to do my best to make sure that they was taken care of.
Right. Right. So what are some of the things, and we'll get to, because I do want to ask you, how did you stumble upon PFC James? Um but when it comes to honor, like I said, I'm going off of, what is that? They're the movies that they have, uh Men of Honor. You see it from, that's just my experience, is what I've seen in movies. So, but even with wearing the uniform and like you said, the selflessness and I don't know if there's any specific code of conduct or specific things that stand out briefly in regards to the military, or specifically the Marines.
The one thing that stands out to me is integrity. I refuse to. Uh, I have a standard. So the Marine Corps really taught me about a standard. Your own personal code of conduct that
Okay.
you should always try to instill, and I try to instill any young people I talk to is about you are your best person to represent you. You are the CEO of yourself. And so you got to
Okay.
manage your finances. You got to do
Mhm.
all that stuff. If you get married, you have a corporation there, and you
Mhm.
should be able to manage it like a CEO and make
Yeah.
all those decisions. So
Mhm. Mhm.
the commitment to be the best and not let anyone tell you you can't do something.
Right. And I think that's the thing. And it was something I was thinking of the other day, and I acknowledged, I was like, you know what, sometimes, and everybody doesn't have this, but growing up, you may have your parents, you may have a teacher or even an older sibling is kind of pushing you to be better, to do better, or to achieve certain things. But it's at some point you reach a level in life where you have to be the one pushing. You have to push yourself. You have to decide, no, I can do better. I can reach this goal. You have to be your own cheerleader in a way. Um, and there are things that I do admire about the military. I think about the discipline. Um, I know my dad he had his own form of I could say he was pretty militant. He had structure, was how we were raised.
That's right.
And so I don't know, I guess I can call myself kind of old school. I believe it's necessary because the structure, the responsibility we had at such a young age, I believe that's why it's easier for me to transition. Like me, I have my own business right now. So there's a lot of things I'm able to do and take on because I've been having responsibilities since I was a teenager.
Mhm.
And it's always, and when you think about entrepreneurship, that's you making yourself get up, making yourself, do what you need to do, do the things you don't feel like doing, no one else wants to do. I just remember my dad so many times, and he was a pastor, and basically he started the church himself. So in
Mhm.
a way, he was an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot from him. And one thing I learned a lot from him was the things he didn't know, we just figured it out. Like I
Yeah.
just remember, and that's kind of my motto in life is just like, you just figure it out. You can ask and try to get some help, but after you've asked and you can't, can't get any help, you just got to figure it out and get it done. No excuses. He was definitely a man of no excuses. So how did you come about, and I'm saying PFC, private first class, Willie Frederick James Jr.
Mhm. Yes, PFC is abbreviation for private first class.
Okay. Okay. So how did you find out about him, or was that's I guess the twist in the story is how did you stumble on him, or were you already working on a project, and was this after you had retired?
Yes, it was after I retired, I was like all the stress and the military structure and all the
Okay.
discipline. I wanted to relax, not to
Okay.
have all this thing. So we moved back. I retired in California. And so
Okay.
me and the wife decided to come back to Kansas City and
Mhm.
we came back to Kansas City, and I was working at up there in Belton at the Air Force base there.
Okay.
I was in charge of the government housing at the time. And
Okay.
so it was a pretty laid back job. I can read the newspaper and, just do, just relax. No
Right.
stress, no stress
Right.
or
That's
worried about anybody or anything like that.
yeah.
Uh, and then I get a phone call from a good friend of mine. He became the junior ROTC Marine instructor at Hickman Mills.
Oh
And
wow, he was Mills, yeah.
yes, and so he wanted enlisted person. So he called me
Okay.
up and he said, "Hey, I need you over here at the high school." I was like, "Well, I'm not interested. I've been in combat. I don't want to mess with no kids." And so that was kind of the conversation. So I asked around. I said, okay, I'll just ask around. And everyone that told me, I even talked to my father. He said, don't go over there. Those kids are bad. They're bad. Everyone told me not to go to that school because it's a bunch of fights and everything else.
Yeah.
And so I said, I've been in combat. I could go over there and handle those kids. They need to be more scared of me than I am of them. And
Right.
so I took the job, and
Okay.
I had a wonderful time over there with those kids. I bonded with and
Okay.
just to see the leadership,
Hmm.
teaching them,
Right.
because at the time I was the only African American male
Wow.
that all those students saw, because most of their teachers was female. And so
Yeah.
they had I brought a different attitude to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I walk the hallways and I tell them, hey, quit having your head down. You need to
Mhm.
speak with, and so they
Yeah.
never saw that before.
Right.
And one other thing is having those students, you couldn't be in my class. You had to dress, with respect and not have your pants down. And if you're going to wear my uniform, you had to cut your hair. Oh,
Okay.
and that a lot of kids did not want to join my class because I held them to that standard. I said, hey, you need to walk around like you're proud to be in that uniform because that's different. Everybody else, you are making a difference in your life.
Mm.
And so you need to show that to the other kids and don't be
Right.
let them be afraid of. And so that's how I kind of got started. And so one year I gave them a task and I told the students over the Christmas break, I want you to go home and read a book and come back and give the whole class the essay or the synopsis of the book that you read over the
Okay.
summer, over the Christmas break, and I'll
Hmm.
uh, give you extra credit. And so
Okay.
so I said, well, I haven't read a book in a while, so I need to show them what I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
so I went, because like I said, we moved back to Kansas City,
Yeah.
and so the military pays for our move and everything. And so we had a box in our storage in our closet that just
Mhm.
said books. And so I opened up the box. I said, I need to find a book. I didn't want to go to the library. And so I wanted to read it right then and there. And so I saw that box. It says books. And so I opened up the box. The box had a book called Honoring Sergeant Carter. The book
Okay.
was Honoring Sergeant Carter. And I asked the wife, how did we get this book? I don't remember buying this book. But the book was there. And so I just wrote it off. So I said, okay, I'm gonna read it. It's about this soldier. Uh, and I read the book. I was so fascinated by the book. Uh, that kind of led me to PFC James. But
Okay.
Sergeant Carter, if you ever read that book, Sergeant Carter was an African American. He was one of the seven Medal of Honor recipients with PFC
Okay.
James. And
Okay.
so the story is similar how his family found out about the ceremony to award
Uh-huh.
him the Medal
Wow.
of Honor. Uh,
Hmm.
came in a letter, and the family opened it up because he never talked about his service. Uh,
Okay.
the reason why, uh, kind of briefly, Sergeant Carter was his mother and father was missionaries, and they went
Okay.
to India right before World War II.
Mm.
And so they kind of got caught up, as the
Wow.
war was starting. He got
Right.
he was only 14. And so they was
Okay.
trying to get back to the States
Oh.
from India, but they got held up in China. And so what does, at the time, Sergeant Carter, 14, he joins the Chinese army at 14 and he
Oh
fought
my.
with the Chinese army while that side of the world was in the war, and then while his family was trying to get back to the States, and they found out he was 14, and so they kicked him out of the Chinese army. And
Okay.
about that time they came back to the States.
Mm.
And at 16, he left for Europe and fought with the French at 16.
Wow.
He wanted to fight. And and he kind of documented
Wow.
the family documented all this stuff. He went with the French. And then when the Pearl Harbor happened, he came back. He heard the United States was going into the army, going into the war. So he came back and joined the army. And so bottom line, this guy was he was a warrior. And
Yeah.
the way he got his Medal of Honor was he got shot 8 times
Wow.
in an open field,
Mhm.
and he still survived. And
Wow.
he captured the Germans was so amazed. They knew that they shot him, and they thought he was dead. And it was 11 of them went out there to try to to see what it was going
Right.
on. So he
Right.
popped up,
Oh my
I,
God.
and they surrendered. And he brought them all back. And so that
They were
story
probably
was,
scared.
yeah, so he
Like,
brought 11 of them back. And he was all shot up, and he still brought 11 of them back. But
wow.
but that was the story. And so after reading that book and doing all that research, I think this was in 20 '09, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Uh, I came back and I started to research about the seven.
Okay.
African Americans ended up being a recipient in '97, and so I researched that, and and then found out, wait a minute now, one of them was from my hometown, Kansas City,
Wow. Yeah.
and so I started asking everyone, all the veteran organization, everyone in Kansas City, do you know we have a Medal of Honor recipient, PFC
Mm.
James? No, I didn't know. The American Legion, the Wayne Minor Post, all these military organizations,
Mm.
and even the mayor of Kansas City, everyone uh, did not know his name. And I
Wow.
was like, why? 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 And so for years, I kept asking everybody, hey, where is his medal? What is going on with him? And
Mm.
so kind of fast forward, this was during COVID. I said,
Okay.
hey, wait a minute, I gotta find out where this medal is. And so kind of right toward the end of COVID, I tracked down 11, I mean, three names that I got somehow. And so I said, well, I didn't want to go during COVID and knock on somebody's door and ask them, did you know about PFC James? So I sent
Right.
off 3 letters, and I got one response back from the widow's niece. And that was
Okay.
Patricia Green. She said, are you looking for the Medal of Honor for PFC James? And she called me up, and I said, yes, yes. Do you know about it? She said, well, I know where it is. And I said, okay, where is it? And so she told me that the Penders had it, her other niece
Okay.
on the widow side had the
Okay.
medal. And so I say, hey, can I arrange a meeting so I go over there? So I go over there and talk to Margaret Pinter, and
Okay.
she told me showed me the medal. I said, hey, we got to put this out. This is too important, because they never had any contact with the military because
Um,
all the records of the widow was destroyed, and so they
wow.
barely got the letter from the White House
Mm.
because she was developing dementia and everything else,
Okay.
and so they only got married like 2 weeks before
Wow.
he went overseas, and so
Right. Mhm.
she had no recollection or any pictures or any documentation, and
Wow.
so the White House tried to track down the mother and
Okay.
they it was a 1930 census that I tracked down and the White House tracked down that identified the sister, your grandmother, in
Okay.
1930. But fast forward, we only took the census in 1940 with PFC James and his mother in the house before he
Okay.
went over to the service. And so we
Okay.
we we kind of didn't know how to track down the sister at the time. So the
Right.
White House couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it. And so we went off. And so when I contacted the Penters, I said, "Hey, we need to do something to make
Mhm.
this known because for a fact I knew that he did not get his full military honors
Mhm.
that he should have had when he was killed in 1945 and when she brought the medal back in 1997 to
Right.
Kansas City to put it in the
Mhm.
closet. So none of the military organizations ever contacted her or never knew what to do because there's a lot
Mhm.
of honor and prestige with that
Yeah.
medal. And
Yeah.
so I said, hey, we have to do it. And I went back to the veteran organizations and they said, well, they was giving me the runaround. And I said, hey, you guys need to step out of my way, because I'm gonna get this done because something told me one of the members. So I put together a nonprofit. I knew I had to go out and try to raise some money for it and
Mhm.
do some certain things. And so one of the members said, uh, he said that his grandmother told him that we need to be his voice from all the way over there, and so we need to do it. And so
Mhm.
something else told me, no matter what you can ask anybody in this whole Kansas City area, whoever, they're gonna tell you no because I want you to do it.
Mhm.
Some said, you might as well stop asking everybody. You just go ahead and do it. You know how to do it. I didn't taught you all this military stuff. I
Mhm.
knew how to do it. And
Yeah.
so everybody kept telling me, no, it's going to be too much money. No, you can't do this. Even the congressional keepers of the Medal of Honor Society up there in Washington D.C. even told me no,
Wow.
you won't be able to do it, but good luck.
Wow.
And so I said, forget you guys. So I started organizing and I started building the ceremony, and I knew I wanted to take his picture uh,
Okay.
on 12th and Paseo
Mhm.
uh, to kind of show him how it did it. In that first documentary, I finally got a reporter to kind of track it on out there on the PBS. They did a
Okay.
special of the Kansas City Forgotten Hero, and in
Okay.
that special, ever since I found out about him being from Kansas City, I always went up there to 12th and Paseo
Mhm.
and laid a rose there to show him that I couldn't make it to his uh, grave site. So I placed it right there every year up until we did that ceremony. And then
Wow.
we placed in 23
Mhm.
we placed the wreath there, and then we had the picture of him. I shut down the whole street. The Kansas City said, you can't shut down the street. You got to go through this. You got to pay $10 million, to close. You're going to have a parade. You got to pay all this money. And so the city clerk just kept giving me a runaround. And I
Right.
just I just said, forget you. I'm closing it down. You're not going to stop us because I already had the army, the color guard, I had everybody, the
Wow.
mounted police, I had the fire station put up the big flag, and
Wow.
I had the three-star general. I talked him into coming down a three-star black general, and
Wow.
so that all transpired to bring that medal
Mhm.
on display
Yeah.
in the area that he grew up in. And that
Right.
was another important thing. He grew up around 12th and Paseo, that
Right.
area right there. Uh, and just like recently on Veterans Day
Mhm.
ceremony on the 14th at Lincoln High School, that's why I wanted to go back because your
Okay.
grandmother and PFC James
Yeah.
walked past that school as it was being built in
Wow.
1936. And so
Okay.
before he went into the service, he saw the community come together
Okay.
and build that school. A lot
Hmm.
of people don't know that that was the only school for African Americans in Kansas City at the time. And
Okay.
they had to almost fund it themselves to
Wow.
get it built. And so
Okay.
that's why it was important for me to show those students that's present day that,
Right.
he was denied that. And so
Right.
that was the whole gist of it, to get that medal displayed out at so the public can see it. And
Right.
then since it was on display, there's where your side of the family came into play,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if it wasn't displayed and they had no contact of where